to our friend Beimnet Abebe from Galaxy Trading. As always, Beimnet, welcome to Galaxy Brains.
Thanks for having me.
It's a big day, Fed Day.
Fed Day.
Not quite a Super Bowl, more like a
No.
divisional rivalry.
This is lame duck period-ish.
For Jay
Yeah.
Powell. Yeah. And we didn't get a cut or a hike. We got a pause.
Correct.
And did they signal, like, from the current Fed makeup that they are likely to continue pausing? Like, what's the outlook now for cuts this year?
There is not that much priced in in terms of like the rate cutting path. In fact, looking at pricing out to Jan 2028, which includes the next Fed governor,
2 years from now.
Chairman, it's Jan. Yes. Yeah, that is 2 years. Yeah. There's only like a little over like 2 more cuts baked into the front end of the U.S. rate curve because, we're pretty close to neutral, right? The Fed funds range is 3.25 at 350, right? And so a 50 bip reduction from there gets you in the high twos,
Which is close to 2.
Yeah, which is close to, but essentially what's happening is the economy is doing just fine. The distortions we've seen from the government shutdown and the data has gotten better. Now we're getting consistent data that shows that the labor market isn't as unbalanced as we feared. And growth, I mean, the last GDP figures we got, we're in the 4s, and so we're going just fine. And you still have the fiscal impulse from the big, beautiful bill. And so, there's no real reason to cut rates. In fact, you're still 100 basis points above the Fed's core PCE mandate or target. And so it looks like labor market's okay, and
Inflation's still a little bit above.
Inflation is 100 bips above. It's
Right.
not a little bit.
Right.
But again,
So
does it really matter?
Are you suggesting possibly even a hike?
No, I'm suggesting that like all the rhetoric around, rates are 100 basis points too high, like we need to be cutting now. Like, wait, like we still have an inflation
And the other stuff
mandate,
is going
and
okay.
technically speaking, we are at full employment, right? And we know that the inflation genie, like especially if it's demand-driven inflation, like is really hard to put in, like to take back.
Yeah.
And so
That warrants a continued slightly more restrictive rather than accommodative policy.
But the way Powell characterized it is like, you're you're moderately restrictive, maybe a little restrictive, if not like on the upper end of neutral. So not too hot, not too cold, just right is kind of what we're currently seeing in the marketplace, and that's what the Fed is reacting to. I would say it is interesting that Waller and Mirren both dissented.
I was going to ask you about this, right? These are current Fed governors that are thought to be on the short list to replace Powell.
Well, not Mirren, but
right.
Waller.
Well, Mirren just was appointed by Trump, so possibly Trump intellectually aligned governors, and they both dissented.
Correct.
What, saying that we should cut?
We should cut another 25 bips, which is great because last time Mirren wanted 50 bips of cuts. So there's progress being made. But again, you just can't help but, like, my biggest takeaway, and it's like a little sobering, I've never seen Powell answer so many political questions. That is not what, like, the Fed chairman should be asked about.
Right.
Like, he had to repeatedly say that we do not comment on this. We do not comment. I do not comment on this. Right. And, there's not currently a credibility issue, but you can see the pathway for it developing over time.
So you're talking about Fed independence and the president's insistence and repeated calls for lower rates. The Fed's mostly avoiding doing that. The one appointed by Trump.
They've cut a lot.
Well, that's right. But like somehow, at least according to Trump, not playing ball with what he wants.
Correct.
But the Trump appointed
Which
guy,
is to get elected to win midterms.
But the Trump appointed guy, Mirren, saying that he wants, like, in line with Trump. Governor Waller thought to be on the short list to replace Jay Powell. also saying what Trump might want to hear. Um, and that calls into question. And then, by the way, I should also point out a grand jury subpoena. No, not an
No,
indictment.
he got subpoenaed like
Subpoenaed
2
by
weeks
the
ago.
grand a
We forgot
federal
about it because we had Greenland.
a DOJ grand jury subpoena for Jay himself over the cost of building this building or renovating the
Correct.
historic building.
And
So
yeah,
unprecedented political
unprecedented.
interference potentially with the
I
federal
mean,
Reserve.
he got asked like why he attended Cook's Supreme Court hearing, and how folks in the administration thought that that was incredibly political. But again, he went to go see like one of his board members like defend herself in the Supreme Court, and there's precedent for it, which he highlighted because Paul Volcker also went to a Supreme Court case, I think in 1985 or something like that.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, he thought like it would look awful if he didn't attend.
Right.
But again, people are trying
It's a
to
colleague. It involves the institution he represents. It's the
correct.
U.S. Supreme Court. Right.
It's also not a far walk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it's so crazy to me. We live in such interesting and chaotic and tense times in the market and in the world. You had gold move 4% today, higher, fresh all-time highs. Silver's also been mooning. You had Trump comment on the dollar yesterday,
Sent it down a lot.
where he was like, "Yeah, I don't really care
I'm
that
fine
the
if
dollar."
it's weaker.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Besant comes out today is like, "Oh no, we do maintain a strong dollar policy." And you've got massive shifts in like reserve policy happening underneath the surface. Tough, unclear because the data is like a little bit sketchy on like who's doing like what exactly.
But it looks like, but you see DXY down a lot. You see Euro USD up
Yeah,
a lot.
it was at over 120 yesterday.
People looking for non-dollar denominated
Assets.
exposure, right?
Correct.
And that's got to be what is at least gold, an asset as big as gold. That's what's driving that, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. There's a little crypto relatedness to it as well. Tether's been buying a ton of gold.
Yeah, there's a big Bloomberg story today about this. I think
Yeah.
it was they said maybe like 1 to 2 tons a week.
Yeah.
Crazy.
They're buying a lot, and a lot of crypto platforms are now embracing the run in commodities because they view it as another token.
That's right. You can trade, some form of stock exposure or commodity, gold and silver, on a lot of foreign crypto exchanges.
Correct.
In on-chain exchanges
Yeah,
like Hyperliquid.
And I think what people miss here in the U.S. is just how embedded it is culturally abroad to have like gold and silver.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the form of jewelry, but like, it is part of like people's cultures to save money in gold.
Yeah.
And now
Sometimes going back thousands of years.
correct.
Yeah. I mean, literally.
Exactly. But yeah, it's the oldest money around. Like,
I know.
it's not practical.
We were talking about how impractical
It's
it was
so
last night
impractical.
because let's
Yeah.
say I have like a golden eagle or silver eagle coin, which I think are normally the monetary standard.
Mm.
These eagle coins. Like golden eagle coin might, let's say it's an ounce. Like, it's got a $5,000 denominated like instrument in my hand. Trying to buy something with that is literally impossible.
It's hard.
I mean, what am I going to do? Cut off a piece of it?
But Tether gold, right?
Well, that's the thing. Tokenized
tokenized
gold
version,
doesn't
which
sound-
you can fractionalize.
it's not that bad
and
of an
actually
idea.
Settle, and it's actually
That's a pretty good gold stable coin, quote unquote.
correct.
The other thing we were talking about is like buying and selling physical gold and silver, which if you truly believe in the highest form of the gold bug thesis, like you should be owning physical because, if in a doomsday scenario or whatever, dystopia that a gold bug might worry about, you think you're going to be able to get your GLD shares like back to use and like a
No, I know.
but the spreads I've been reading that people are paying
widening.
because I read some anecdote. I mean, these are anecdotes, but a person was trying to sell silver in Florida, and the dealer they've been using for years was quoting them like a 20% discount. And he's like, "Why is it so big?" And he's like, "Because there's no buyers." He's like, "No one's buying physical." He's
It
like, "This
depends
is
on
all
the market. There
yeah,
are
they're all
other places
different.
where
Yeah,
it's
certainly
like trading at a
abroad.
premium.
Well, I think this guy was saying too that like the demand he's seeing in
It's more
America is
financial.
financial.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like that also plays into the thesis of the non-dollar denominated risk asset thesis, where it's like it's not people that are saying, "What if the world ends? I need silver under my mattress." It's people saying, well, I want to sell this like other one financial asset and just really easily in my brokerage account instead of the other. And I saw like SLV, I think, which is the main silver ETF,
Insane
did
volume.
more volume in one day this week than its previous quarterly high watermark. I mean, it's crazy amount of
Yeah.
volume.
But again, like I think what you're seeing in this market is just fear, right? Fear of, is the world order changing, right? Like what's the US's, place in it? How is it different? Fear in terms of AI, right? Like software has gotten beaten up in US markets, and that's because people are so worried about like AI replacing
Because you
software
can literally like
companies.
vibe code your own tools now. Like you don't need to buy.
No
Yeah.
subscription service, etc.
Yeah.
There's fears around like how much capex is going to get spent.
That's right.
Like there are just so many like concerns out there in the marketplace, and we're hyper financialized, like,
Right.
and you just see these crazy moves, and in terms of like ultimately like what that means for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin thesis. Right now, it's really hard. You've gone as low as 86,000 this year. You've gone as high as 96 or 98, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and in that span, like alts have continued not to really trade well, with the exception of
A
things
couple
like
names.
Hyperliquid
Yeah.
that are rebounding pretty aggressively. But um, it's tough to say. My guiding post has been the charts, and they still target the same
That's right.
move.
I think you, from a fundamental basis, and we were talking about this with the impracticality of gold as an actual payment instrument. It seems like that multipolar geopolitical landscape, the chaos, the search for a non-dollar denominated hedge that's sovereign, that Bitcoin should eventually catch up and be part of that thesis for people. But it just the chart, like it's people are saying they may agree with that, but they're like, well, I think it might go lower though. I could get more Bitcoin though. Like,
Yeah.
still feels like that.
No, I mean,
And we got close to that 100K. I think this was last week, right? That 100K.
you mean the 100-day moving
Well, the
average,
100 day,
100-week moving
but
average,
also just
100.
100K was just
Oh,
psychological. I know you think more about the 50 and the 100 than
yeah.
the actual level, but again, like pretty easily rejected off that,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
right back
this is
down
an
to the
asset
same range. I
where
mean,
you had the kitchen sink thrown at it in terms of like positivity,
yeah,
right? Like you had ETF introduction, pro regulation, you had a pro crypto administration come into office. You had a ton of inflows. You had MSTR buying left and right. You had other debts buying left and right, and yet we still can't manage to be above 100.
yeah,
And I think that is quite telling in terms of like where the attention has gone
yeah.
in financial markets. Um, and, a lot of people are not concerned with not owning enough Bitcoin, but more concerned with not owning enough gold
Right
and
now,
silver.
surely this
And
plays out a little bit over the years long time.
absolutely, a year
By the way,
is a very
January
long
has felt
time.
like a long month, has it
I know.
not? My gosh, it's only still
I mean, the
January.
amount of headlines we've had just to start the year, I thought it was crazy. Like after the first like 10 days of the year,
Yeah.
and this has been.
Well, it is. I mean, it is starting to play out like we thought. It has been in a number of ways. Bitcoin price has been within our expectations, as you've been saying for some time now. Also, I think our audience will recall that I've declined to put a price target on Bitcoin, with the primary reason being that the investing environment is too chaotic to predict. It is a chaotic January. It has been.
I mean, absolutely.
I mean, let's hope for our hearts and our, our attention, our caffeine intake, that it's not as the
I
rest
need
of
a
the year.
vacation
Yeah,
already.
the
I
rest of
mean,
the year isn't as chaotic as this.
but it will be, and I think what chaos represents to me is opportunity, right? And these volatile periods are going to be great if you are able to move in and out of markets.
Mhm.
And
Stay nimble.
stay nimble. And I think what you're meant to do is really use these moves as like liquidity opportunities. So if something rips 10% higher and you were looking to short it, like that's on a headline, like that's a great opportunity to sell. Something dips like 5-10% on some bullshit headline, like that's a good opportunity to buy it. And so I think it is really like a proper trader's market this
Yeah.
year. And again, like it's almost like you shouldn't even like look at what the headline is because it's just gonna go back
It's a
and
lot of
forth.
ping pong.
A lot of ping pong. Trump policy in particular is like, taco,
Yeah.
right? So the first move is always like an overreaction, and you get
It always
some
walks it back a little
walks it
bit.
back, etc. And like you land somewhere in between, and that's the classic,
Yeah.
negotiating tactic. And yeah, so it's interesting. The one thing I would also note though is like you're in the prime of earnings season right now. You had Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla report today. Microsoft is down. The other two names are marginally higher. You know, the S&P and Nasdaq have traded well this year so far, but they're not really up that much. And so it feels like there's a little momentum exhaustion in that marketplace, but tough to tell.
Yeah. Still early.
Yeah.
Beimnet Abebe, my friend from Galaxy Trading, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.